It's time to talk about one of the most necessary and most effective performance enhancers ever known to mankind. And nope, it's not creatine. Creatine's a joke. If you're eating egg whites, tilapia, and broccoli, then you might get a little temporary bump from creatine. But if that's your diet, you're not really an athlete anyhow. So why bother taking creatine? Real athletes don't waste their time with creatine. They just grill up some steaks and call it a day. The much maligned micronutrient that I believe is the most critical and effective performance enhancer for athletes is sodium. Optimal sodium intake increases blood volume, which helps deliver more oxygen and nutrients to the cells, which helps repair and remove waste. Sodium helps increase stamina and endurance, and it allows athletes to hold more water in the muscles, which increases strength and explosiveness, and it helps improve the integrity of the joints. Sodium intake should be as carefully monitored as proteins, fats, and carbs. Now, I've been dieting and doing weight cuts all my life, since wrestling as a teenager, and throughout my bodybuilding and powerlifting career, and the effects of sodium and water on the body are enormous. Since that meet, I've had the opportunity to work closely with one of the UFC's best nutritionists and weight cut experts, George Lockhart. Now, he's worked with many of the top fighters, such as John Jones, Rory McDonald, and recently helped Cyborg win her first UFC fight. I've helped with weight cuts with professional MMA fighters and some of the greatest powerlifters in the world, such as Eric Lillibridge, Dan Green, Amit Sapir, and Brandon Lilly. And the single most important thing I focus on is sodium. Everything else follows sodium, and nothing is as important for performance. But you might ask, isn't sodium unhealthy? Absolutely not. It's quite the contrary. 3 of the largest studies ever done on sodium intake all showed that an increase in salt results in a decrease in cardiovascular disease and all-cause mortality. As a matter of fact, the highest rates of all-cause mortality were found in the groups that restricted sodium intake. Now, there is a small percentage of the population that's sodium sensitive, just like there are those that are lactose intolerant or have peanut allergies or gluten allergies. But the research suggests it's a small percentage that will have adverse effects from increasing their sodium intake. And those athletes should monitor the effect of sodium on their health. Now, when you initially increase your salt intake, you will realize some water retention until your body acclimates to the increased salt intake. But it will normalize and you'll begin to see all the benefits. Now, what kind of sodium should you be eating? Well, table salt is sodium chloride, so it's only about 40% sodium. And you'll get a bigger bang for your buck if you use sea salt. But don't overlook iodized table salt. Iodine is another largely misunderstood and maligned nutrient, which has important health benefits. 2 billion people worldwide suffer from iodine deficiency, which causes mental retardation, and it also causes goiter and thyroid disease. Now, iodine was added to table salt to reduce the incidence of goiter, which is an enlarged thyroid gland. Thyroid disease results in a slowed metabolism, weight gain, fatigue, and other symptoms of hypothyroidism. So before you start popping T3 like candy, consider that you may benefit from the use of iodized salt. Now, how much sodium should you take in? Well, I live in Las Vegas, and I train hard and I sweat a lot, so I salt all of my meals. I also eat a couple pieces of bacon with breakfast. I added a flavored salt tablet to every glass of water that I drink, and I snack on pickles or I eat one with meals. I try to take in 10 to 12 grams of sodium a day. Yes, that's 10,000 to 12,000 milligrams. Now, I believe athletes should take in about 4 grams for every half gallon of water that they drink. 8 grams for a gallon, 12 grams for a gallon and a half. Now, disciplined athletes, or those who are dieting, tend not to eat fast foods or processed foods, so they're already limiting their sodium intake. Adding to that, they drink a lot of water, which also tends to further dehydrate them by flushing out valuable minerals and electrolytes, so their performance suffers. Now, oftentimes athletes will reduce or eliminate carbs for a period of time. Water binds to carbs in the muscle, so when there's fewer carbs, there's less water. And there's an increased likelihood of cramping and decrease in performance. Now, adequate sodium intake can solve all of these problems and drastically improve performance, decrease fatigue, and increase blood volume for better recovery. This is especially true for women who are preparing for shows and trying to lose weight. Don't restrict sodium. It doesn't affect body composition. If your trainer has you cutting out sodium a week before a show, you need to kick him in the throat. The muscles will deflate and pull away from the skin. In addition to being tired as hell, you'll lose definition and you'll look skinny fat. Then you'll suffer from water retention after the show and blow up like a balloon and have sore feet and enormous cankles. That's where your calves and ankles are the same size, cankles. And if you deplete carbs and salt for a week to fit into your favorite bikini, you're just losing water, not fat, and it'll all come back. Now, I've even seen this at the highest levels of competition. A couple years ago, Flex Wheeler and I were working with the Mr. Olympia caliber bodybuilder. And 2 weeks before his show, he was exhausted and his physique was flat and he looked terrible. And we couldn't figure it out because the diet we gave him called for 10 grams of sodium a day. And he swore he was sticking to the diet. After a couple days of this, we had to sit him down and find out what was going on. And as it turns out, his wife admitted she had pulled all of his sodium from his meals because she thought she knew his body. Needless to say, he was pissed. Fast forward 24 hours and 20 grams of sodium later, and he looked and felt amazing. He was full, vascular, and striated. It just goes to show you it can happen to the very best. Fear of sodium is just another one of those pervasive myths that never seems to die. John F. Kennedy said the following, which I believe holds true for so many things in our industry. The great enemy of truth is very often not the lie, deliberate, contrived, and dishonest, but the myth, persistent, persuasive, and unrealistic. Too often we hold fast to the cliches of our forebears. We subject all facts to a prefabricated set of interpretations. We enjoy the comfort of opinion without the discomfort of thought. Well, I hope that gives you something to think about, because that's my rant. And as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more.